According to the National Electrical Code, specifically the 2020 edition, Article 547.5 C2, all circuits providing electrical power to equipment that is accessible to animals in dirt confinement areas must be GFCI protected. This is a crucial safety measure designed to prevent electrical shock hazards to livestock and other animals. A ground fault circuit interrupter, or GFCI, is a device that monitors the balance of current between the hot and neutral conductors in a circuit. Under normal circumstances, the current flowing through the hot conductor should equal the current returning through the neutral conductor. However, if a ground fault occurs, meaning some of the current is leaking to ground, the GFCI will detect this imbalance and quickly trip the circuit, cutting off the power. This rapid response is essential to prevent serious injury or death from electrical shock. In animal confinement areas, the risk of ground faults is elevated due to the presence of moisture, dirt, and conductive surfaces. Animals may come into contact with faulty electrical equipment or wiring, creating a path for current to flow through their bodies to ground. This can result in severe electrical shock, burns, or even death. The NEC mandates GFCI protection in these areas to mitigate these risks and ensure the safety of the animals. Article 547, which covers agricultural buildings, addresses specific electrical requirements for these types of environments. The purpose of Article 547 is to provide additional safety precautions beyond the general wiring methods outlined in other parts of the code. These additional precautions are necessary because agricultural buildings often present unique electrical hazards such as exposure to corrosive materials, excessive moisture, and the presence of livestock. The requirement for GFCI protection in animal confinement areas is one example of these additional safety measures. The specific wording of Article 547.5c2 emphasizes that GFCI protection is required for all circuits providing electrical power to equipment accessible to animals in confinement areas. This means that any electrical equipment that animals could potentially touch or come into contact with must be powered by a GFCI protected circuit. Examples of such equipment might include lighting fixtures, heating elements, water heaters, feeding systems, and ventilation fans. The GFCI protection can be provided by a GFCI circuit breaker installed in the electrical panel or by a GFCI receptacle installed at the point of use. A GFCI circuit breaker provides protection for the entire circuit, while a GFCI receptacle only protects devices plugged into that particular receptacle. In either case, the GFCI device must be properly installed and tested to ensure that it is functioning correctly. Regular testing of GFCI devices is recommended to verify their continued functionality. This can be done by pressing the test button on the GFCI device, which should cause it to trip and cut off power to the circuit. If the GFCI does not trip when the test button is pressed, it should be replaced immediately. It is also important to ensure that the electrical wiring in animal confinement areas is properly installed and maintained. This includes using appropriate wiring methods for the environment, such as moisture-resistant cables and corrosion-resistant enclosures. All electrical connections should be tight and secure, and any damaged or frayed wiring should be repaired or replaced promptly. In addition to GFCI protection, other safety measures may be required in animal confinement areas depending on the specific circumstances. These may include grounding and bonding of electrical equipment, the use of weatherproof enclosures, and the installation of surge protection devices. Grounding and bonding help to create a low impedance path for fault current to flow back to the source, which helps to trip the circuit breaker or fuse and prevent electrical shock hazard. Weatherproof enclosures protect electrical equipment from exposure to moisture and corrosive materials, which can damage the equipment and create electrical hazards. Surge protection devices help to protect electrical equipment from voltage surges caused by lightning strikes or other electrical disturbances. It is important to consult with a qualified electrician to determine the specific electrical requirements for your animal confinement area and to ensure that all electrical work is performed in accordance with the National Electrical Code and other applicable regulations. A qualified electrician can assess the environment, identify potential electrical hazards, and recommend appropriate safety measures. They can also install and test GFCI devices, inspect wiring, and perform other electrical work to ensure the safety of your animals and your property. Failure to comply with the NEC requirements for GFCI protection in animal confinement areas can result in serious consequences, including electrical shock, injury, death, and property damage. It can also result in fines and other penalties from regulatory agencies. Therefore, it is essential to take the necessary steps to ensure that your animal confinement area is electrically safe and compliant with all applicable codes and regulations. Understanding the requirements outlined in Article 547.5c2 of the NEC is the first step in achieving this goal. Remember that GFCI protection is not a substitute for proper electrical wiring and maintenance. It is an additional safety measure that provides an extra layer of protection against electrical shock hazards. Regular inspection and maintenance of electrical equipment and wiring are essential to ensure the continued safety of your animal confinement area. In summary, the requirement for GFCI protection in animal confinement areas is a critical safety measure designed to protect animals from electrical shock hazards. Article 547.5c2 of the National Electrical Code mandates this protection for all circuits providing electrical power to equipment accessible to animals in dirt confinement areas. By understanding and complying with this requirement, you can help to ensure the safety of your animals and prevent electrical accidents. Always consult with a qualified electrician to ensure that all electrical work is performed in accordance with the NEC and other applicable regulations. Also, be sure to test GFCI devices regularly to ensure proper functionality. Remember, safety is paramount, and taking the necessary precautions can save lives and prevent injuries. This requirement exists because animal environments, particularly dirt confinement areas, present unique electrical hazards. Moisture, conductivity of dirt, and potential damage to wiring from animals all contribute to an increased risk of ground faults. A ground fault occurs when electrical current deviates from its intended path and flows to ground, potentially through a person or animal. Without GFCI protection, this fault current can cause severe shock or even death. The GFCI works by constantly monitoring the current flowing in the circuit. It compares the amount of current flowing out on the hot wire with the amount of current returning on the neutral wire. Under normal conditions, these currents should be equal. However, if a ground fault occurs, some of the current will leak to ground, creating an imbalance between the hot and neutral wires. When the GFCI detects this imbalance, even a very small difference, it quickly trips the circuit, cutting off the power and preventing a dangerous shock. The NEC specifies that the GFCI must trip within a very short time frame, typically a fraction of a second, to minimize the risk of injury. The equipment accessible to animals could include a wide variety of electrical devices, such as lighting, heating, ventilation, watering systems, and feeding equipment. Any device that is within reach of the animals and connected to an electrical circuit must be GFCI protected. This requirement applies to both permanently installed equipment and portable equipment that is plugged into receptacles. The GFCI protection can be provided in several ways. One option is to use a GFCI circuit breaker in the electrical panel that serves the circuit. This type of breaker provides protection for the entire circuit, including all of the wiring and equipment connected to it. Another option is to use GFCI receptacles at the point of use. These receptacles have built-in GFCI protection and will trip if a ground fault is detected. GFCI receptacles are a good option for protecting portable equipment or for adding GFCI protection to existing circuits. It is important to note that standard receptacles cannot be used in animal confinement areas unless they are GFCI protected. The NEC also requires that all electrical equipment installed in animal confinement areas be suitable for the environment. This means that the equipment must be able to withstand the corrosive effects of moisture, dust, and animal waste. Enclosures must be watertight or dust-tight, and wiring must be protected from physical damage. Regular inspection and maintenance of electrical equipment are essential to ensure safety in animal confinement areas. Wiring should be checked for damage, and connections should be tightened to prevent loose connections. GFCI devices should be tested regularly to ensure that they are functioning properly. To test a GFCI device, simply press the test button on the device. This should cause the device to trip and cut off power to the circuit. If the device does not trip when the test button is pressed, it should be replaced immediately. Proper grounding and bonding of electrical equipment are also important safety measures in animal confinement areas. Grounding provides a path for fault current to flow back to the source, which helps to trip the circuit breaker and prevent electrical shock. Bonding connects all metal parts of the electrical system together, which helps to equalize the voltage and reduce the risk of shock. It is essential to consult with a qualified electrician to ensure that all electrical work in animal confinement areas is performed in accordance with the NEC and other applicable codes. An electrician can help you select the appropriate equipment, install it properly, and ensure that it is properly grounded and bonded. Failure to comply with the NEC requirements for GFCI protection and other safety measures can result in serious consequences, including electrical shock, injury, death, and property damage. It is important to take electrical safety seriously and to follow all applicable codes and regulations. Remember that electricity can be dangerous, and it is always better to be safe than sorry. If you have any questions or concerns about electrical safety in animal confinement areas, consult with a qualified electrician. They can provide you with expert advice and assistance to ensure that your electrical system is safe and compliant. In addition to the specific requirements for GFCI protection in animal confinement areas, the NEC also includes general requirements for electrical safety in agricultural buildings. These requirements cover a wide range of topics, including wiring methods, grounding, bonding, overcurrent protection, and equipment installation. It is important to be familiar with all of the applicable requirements in the NEC to ensure that your electrical system is safe and compliant. The NEC is a complex document, and it can be difficult to understand all of the requirements. If you have any questions or concerns, consult with a qualified electrician. They can help you interpret the code and ensure that your electrical system meets all of the applicable requirements. Electrical safety is an important concern in all agricultural buildings, not just animal confinement areas. The presence of moisture, dust, corrosive materials, and large animals can create unique electrical hazards. By following the requirements in the NEC and consulting with a qualified electrician, you can help to ensure the safety of your animals, your employees, and your property. The information provided here is for general guidance only and should not be considered a substitute for professional advice. Always consult with a qualified electrician to ensure that your electrical system is safe and compliant with all applicable codes and regulations. Remember that electrical safety is an ongoing process, and it is important to regularly inspect and maintain your electrical system to ensure that it is functioning properly. By taking these steps, you can help to prevent electrical accidents and protect your animals and your property. It is also worth noting that some local jurisdictions may have additional requirements for electrical safety in animal confinement areas. Be sure to check with your local building department to determine if there are any additional regulations that apply to your situation. Compliance with all applicable codes and regulations is essential to ensure the safety of your animals and your property. The National Electrical Code is updated every 3 years, so it is important to stay up to date on the latest changes. The NEC is available for purchase from the National Fire Protection Association, and it can also be accessed online. By staying informed about the latest changes to the NEC, you can help to ensure that your electrical system remains safe and compliant. In conclusion, GFCI protection is a critical safety measure for electrical circuits in animal confinement areas. Article 547.5 C2 of the National Electrical Code mandates this protection for all circuits providing electrical power to equipment accessible to animals in dirt confinement areas. By understanding and complying with this requirement, you can help to protect your animals from electrical shock hazards and ensure the safety of your property. Always consult with a qualified electrician to ensure that all electrical work is performed in accordance with the NEC and other applicable regulations. Remember that electrical safety is an ongoing process, and it is important to regularly inspect and maintain your electrical system to ensure that it is functioning properly. By taking these steps, you can help to prevent electrical accidents and protect your animals and your property.